Alright, so going off the results that I had from testing the keep alive time, I'm going to make this video go over the server tick rate, the in packets, and how that relates to out packets, and how the frame rate is involved with the in and out packets, and what will be the cause of movement jittering while moving around in a server, and at the same time why you would get skipping on your mouse movements, or you would get jittery mouse movements versus having a smooth mouse movement. So right now I have the server tick rate set to 10, or actually it's set to 5.5, but it won't go any lower than like 9 or 10. Like, even though I have it set to 5.5, it seems like 9 and 10 is the lowest it'll go for in packets. Whenever I have the tick rate for the server lower than 10, it seems like it won't go below 9. And I have my net speed set to default 9363. But if I set my net speed to 100,000 and my frame rate is at 0, and my keep alive time is set at a low enough number where my out data, my out packets, are pretty much in sync with my frame rate, but my in packets are very, very low, only 10 versus over 1,000. Watch what happens when I try to move now. There's a ton of movement jittering. See, my mouse is moving nice and smooth, where I'm not getting any choppiness in my mouse movement. But as soon as I try to move around and my character, I'm getting all this jittering effect because my in and out data is severely different. It's like there's a major number differential between my in and out data. And so I'm trying to tell the server that I'm jumping and I'm moving from here to here, but the server is having trouble keeping up, trying to tell me where I'm actually at by sending so little data back to me. It's having a hard time pinpointing exactly where or telling me exactly where I'm at, because so little data is coming back to me from the server. It's hard for the server to pinpoint where I'm at after when I'm sending so much data or rendering so much data on my screen. I'm seeing like this much more data on my screen than I'm actually getting back from the server, so it results in jittering. If I take my net speed back down to default here, the jittering goes away, but now my mouse movement is a lot choppier. So if you have little in packets and a lot of out packets, that results in jittery movement. If you have a lot of in packets and a very little out packets, then that results in choppy mouse movement. And what determines the differential is the server tick rate, the maximum frame rate, and the keep alive time for your out data. Your max frame rate right here determines how much out packets you are going to send, along with the keep alive time determines how many out packets you send. And the server tick rate determines how much data you're going to receive from the server. So if we go to the server's config file now, and we change the tick rate from 5.5 to 500, restart the server. So now I'm going to have my tick rate for the server at 500. My max frame rate is still set to 0. But even though I have my tick rate set to 500, I don't seem to be able to get my in packets to go above 120. Seems like it's limited by my internet connection to the server, or the server's internet connection to me, but something's causing the in packets to be limited to 120 for this test. And I take my frame rate up to, so now my frame rate's up to 400-ish. In packets are around 120-ish. So there should be a little bit of jittering, but not that much. But I should see a little bit. Yeah, see how I'm seeing a little bit of jittering. Yeah, see there's a little bit of jittering there. See, it's because my out packets are a little too high compared to my in packets. But if I could figure out a way to get my in packets to go above 120 and try to match my out packets, then I could render a larger frame rate and not have that jittering. But if I go into my config file and limit my frame rate to, let's say, 150, and then go back into the server. For having your own server kind of comes in handy, being able to do testing like this. So now my frame rate's limited to about 140, and my in packets are almost 120. So now there should be very little jittering, or no jittering at all. Yeah, before I was getting some jittering right here, but I'm not getting it anymore. So because I limited my frame rate to get close to my in-packet data, and the differential is very little now, it's only about 20 packets difference, I don't get any of that movement jittering that I was getting before. So the bigger differential you have between in and out packets, the more jittering you'll have on your movement. If you have very little out packets and a lot of in packets, then that results in jittering of your mouse movement. And what determines the out packets is whatever your max frame rate number is, determines your max output packets. And to keep your output packets closely in sync with your frame rate, you want to have a very low keep alive time, and to try to match your frame rate and out packets with your tick rate, or I mean with your in packets, is the server's tick rate. You want to have your server tick rate as close to your out packets and your max client frame rate that you have set up for your game's config file settings, along with your server settings. So that's how you would want to configure in packets, out packets, max client frame rate, keep alive time, and server tick rate, and how they all relate to each other. And if you have too big of a differential between your in and out packets, if you're getting a lot of out packets and very little in packets, then that results in movement jittering and skipping. But if you have the opposite, if you have a lot of in packets and very little out packets, then that results in mouse movement jittering. And that's what happens when you have too big of a differential between those two sets of data packets. Okay, so that's my little demonstration and test for Unreal 2004, in data, out data, tick rate, keep alive time, and max client frame rate, and how they all relate to each other in a Unreal 2004 dedicated server.